As of now, the current hottest game is Glory. With the system of one account per card, its login device became a common part of computers. The professional esports tournament became more magnificent. One Autumn Leaf, the account that has been regarded as the battle god. The player is EQ, who is known to be the textbook expert in Glory. At the Excellent Era team base of operation, there is a man named EQ, an adult video gamer and smoker. He was ordered to hand over the account card of the One Autumn Leaf. Their team has decided that EQ's role as a team leader will be taken over by the new recruit named Sun Xiang. Starting from this day, Sun Tiang will also be in control of the One Autumn Leaf. The Excellent Era team manager named Qi Lai said that Sun Xiang is the Rookie of the Year of the Professional Alliance. Sun Xiang is a man with yellow hair and an ex-member of the Conquering Clouds team. A lady interrupts them. She said that the account of One Autumn Leaf was leveled up by EQ alone for 10 years, so she believes that it's unfair for EQ to just replace him. She's Suma Cheng, also a member of the Excellent Era team. Despite what she said, Qi Lai answered her by saying that the account belongs to the team and not EQ's personal account. Speaking of which, during the 2 years that he's been leading, an Excellent Era has continuously been at the bottom of the table. For him, One Autumn team needs to be managed by Sun Xiang. Only then can its true potential be unlocked. Everyone agreed with the manager aside from Suma Cheng. They even badmouthed EQ, and EQ felt down and didn't give any word to them. Suma Cheng was annoyed and wanted to fight them all, but then EQ stopped her and only smiled at the team. Qi Lai shouted, asking him once again to hand over the card to Sun Xiang. EQ walks towards them without any words. He gets something on his jacket. It's the card of One Autumn Leaf. Sun Xiang smiled upon seeing it. He was too excited to think that he will finally replace EQ as the new trump card. This One Autumn Leaf is the one that people praise as the battle god. And this is the reason he transferred to this team, to take control of the One Autumn Leaf. EQ handed it to him. He immediately rose as he wanted to get the card instantly. He smiled widely once again upon believing that this card will be his now. Hey, what are you doing? Sun Xiang suddenly asked with a worried face. He was annoyed that EQ doesn't want to let go of the card. EQ seriously stared at him. Sun Xiang told him that his hands were trembling. How can this kind of hand bring out the true potential of the battle god? Just leave it to me, he added. He also vowed to EQ that he will make sure that the title battle god echoes throughout Glory. He then asked EQ to retire. EQ asked if he likes the game, but instead of answering, Sun Xiang was confused. Before EQ let go of the card, he told Sun Xiang that if he really likes the game, he should treat everything as glory and not as boasting. Hen then let go of the card while he advised Sun Xiang to take care of the One Autumn Leaf. Sun Xiang becomes mad at his words, but he doesn't care and continues walking. As per the manager, their team doesn't have any suitable card to give him, so he offered EQ to stay in their team as a training partner. Qi Lai was waiting for EQ's decision in a case like this. Without hesitation, EQ rejected his offer and told them to cancel the contract. Suma Cheng was worried and reminded him that if only one-sided requests to cancel a contract, the player will have to pay a huge penalty fee. Qi Lai smirks and he knows that EQ cannot pay the penalty fee. According to Qi Lai, EQ in the Professional Alliance was always a celebrity, but he refused to take part in advertisements and even refused to do all kinds of press conferences and interviews. You have such great business value, yet can't make any money for an excellent era, Qi Lai stated, adding to the fact that he needs to give financial support to his old teammates who are all retired and can't compete anymore. So he believes that EQ doesn't have any money to pay a huge amount of fees. Sun Xiang heard everything and was surprised that someone like EQ as a top-tier player has no money. Tell it to me straight. What are your conditions? EQ asked. Qi Lai holds a folder consisting of some paperwork. He ordered EQ to announce his retirement, and if he agrees, the manager is willing to take care of the penalty fee. Suma Cheng was mad upon hearing it, but Qi Lai ignored her. EQ gets the retirement contract while Suma Cheng continues explaining. According to her, a player that announces their retirement can only return to a different team after a period of 1 year. I worked so hard for so many years. What's so bad about a year of rest? EQ uttered while checking the paper. He then signed it, and by looking at the retirement contract, it turned out that this was prepared long ago. After he signed the paper, he then put it on the table and walked away. Suma Cheng followed him while the men were happy that EQ was finally out in their team. Outside the building, the snow is falling while the two are walking. It's too cold. There's no need to see me off, EQ said since Suma Cheng keeps chasing him. The lady asked about his plan after this. He just casually answered that he will rest for a year, then come back after. He continued walking, leaving Suma Cheng crying. In an instant, everything has changed. EQ knows that he can't really adapt to this. He feels cold, so he decided to find a place to avoid the cold temporarily. When he saw a Joyful Flourish internet cafe, he was not hesitant to enter inside and register to ask for a seat. The attendant told him to register using his ID card, so he handed his ID to the lady. He observed the area and was amazed that the place is pretty big. The attendant put him in Area C, Seat 42. He then went ahead to find it and he forgot to get his ID, so the lady told him to take it later before he would leave. The first thing he found is the logo where Area C is. But when he goes to Seat 42, there is a lady playing. She played Glory, which made EQ interested to watch her moves. She's Chen Guo, the Joyful Flourish PC cafe owner. She's already enraged since she's almost defeated by her opponent. She giggled while shooting her enemy, and her character's class is a gunslinger. Ma Cheng plays in this class too. Because of it, he remembered Ma Cheng and was guilty that he left Ma Cheng in pain. When Ma Cheng played Glory, she was calm during her APK confrontation, and she even asked for some mercy from her enemy. She still managed to smile even though she was about to be defeated. In the end, he will get the victory and apologize to her opponent with the same reaction during her APK confrontation. EQ was puzzled that this lady playing in front of him has a huge difference from Ma Cheng. But still, he feels that both sides are equally scary. At this point, Chen Guo was so mad and ended up defeated. When she looked behind her, she saw EQ, so she gave the seat to EQ. EQ immediately began to play. Chen Guo was annoyed while thinking that she actually lost 52 matches in a row. She has been playing Glory for 5 years, and now the opponent's account level in her last game is far below her, so she concludes that it might be an expert. "Boss, that guy's using your account," someone shouted. She instantly turned back and rushed to Area C, Seat 42. She rattled as she forgot to exit the game and was worried that her money and equipment might lose. When she saw EQ playing her account, she shouted and was mad once again. She informed EQ that he needs to pay once he loses. To her surprise, EQ managed to win the game. She widely smiled that her account got a victory after how many losses. Even though she's a veteran player with over 5 years of experience, I lost 52 matches in a row. And she can't believe that EQ won. "You forgot to log out from the game. When I sat down, the battle had already started," EQ explained. The lady asked how long it took for him to win the game, and he casually answered that it was only a little over 49 seconds, which made Chen Guo shocked. EQ also added that his hands were freezing, otherwise 30 seconds would be enough for him. Chen Guo feels thrilled as she thinks that EQ is a professional gamer, since the professional team is closest to this area, which is an excellent era. She can recognize the members of the excellent era unless it is the expert who never shows his face. She can't believe it while looking at EQ. She then concludes that the man in front of him is the mysterious professional player of the excellent era named EQ. She feels thrilled once again. She decided to ask EQ for her confirmation, but then she pulled back her fingers. For someone as inconspicuous as EQ, she knows that if she directly asked him this, EQ might probably not admit it. She then slowly walked away and headed to the lobby and asked immediately about the registered name of the person sitting at Area C, Seat 42. The attendant said that the guest's name is Yizu. She then thinks about it, and since Yizu and EQ are almost the same, she's very sure that it was the same person who is the expert mysterious player of excellent era. She grabbed a pen and paper as she wanted to ask for an autograph from EQ. She was excited since no one has EQ's autograph. The attendant told her that the guest also left his ID. She then realized that people registered using their real names now. When she takes a look at it, only the name is similar. She dropped the pen and paper, and she loses hope when she thinks that she was wrong for thinking that the guest in Seat 42 is the expert player EQ. She goes back to EQ to hand over his ID card. EQ asked if she works there, and she answered that she's the boss. EQ informed her that he found on the internet that this shop is hiring, and since he thinks that he fits the qualification, and there are no problems with the residence and salary for him either, he decided to give it a try. Chen Guo was shocked upon hearing it. She then realized that she wanted to compare notes to EQ, so this gave her a reason. "If you want to work for me, just fulfilling the qualifications isn't enough. You also need to beat me in a duel in Glory," Chen Guo stated. EQ took a look again at the information on the internet as he didn't see that Chen Guo's condition was not written on the requirements. Chen Guo then told him that the condition was newly added, so he couldn't see it on the internet. At this point, EQ believes that Chen Guo is only interested in his abilities. But then, she told the lady that he cannot beat her. The lady was confused, so he answered that he doesn't have an account that can beat Chen Guo. He doesn't have levels and equipment either. "I have an account before. I gave it away," he added. Based on his levels of skills, Chen Guo concludes that his account has been worth a lot of money, and that he is too generous to give it away. Yeah, too generous, EQ answered. Chen Guo wasn't aware that it was the battle god, One Autumn Leaf. EQ was puzzled when the lady asked him if he was planning on going to the new server. According to her, it'll be the 10th anniversary of Glory at midnight. EQ was speechless since he almost forgot that the Glory's 10th server is launching tonight. Chen Guo also added that Glory's tradition is to open a new server every anniversary. Tonight at 12 AM is the launch of the 10th server, Chi Guo shouted. Since it is a new server, EQ remembered that the players can transfer into it, but they'll need an empty level 1 account to do it as per Chen Guo. EQ saw this as an opportunity, so he got a card in his pocket and he wanted to try it. He inserted the card and Chen Guo was confused why he still had a card if he already gave his account. She then realized that this card is the one that was sold 10 years ago. That's right, it's the first edition card. EQ answered, which made Chen Guo surprised since 10 years ago is a whole 5 years earlier than her. She was thinking that a 10-year veteran player and his skills are already so advanced. He gave away his old account and is using an empty level 1 account to play on the new server. He believes that EQ is definitely obsessed with Glory. After a short period of time, EQ completed transferring his account named Lord Grimm. From now on, he will use this account to play on the new server. He grips his card and closes his eyes to imagine someone with him. He was interrupted by Chen Guo to ask her if she wanted to be a network manager. She turned to the lady and answered that he was interested in the night shift. Then follow me. Might as well do some work since it's convenient, Chen Guo stated. She chuckles as she imagines striking gold because of EQ, who is a full-time night owl and has 10 years of experience. They go to the second floor and this is where they live with her other buddies. And since EQ will now work on her, she told EQ that he will also live here with them. It has a nice spacious inside and it's very clean. Not only do they provide him with food and shelter, but the living conditions aren't bad either. He quickly emerged from an excellent era, with no clue what his next step was going to be. Chen Guo gave her own room to sleep in. It's a little bit shabby. It was like their stock room. Chen Guo felt guilty and explained honestly that she wasn't short of people and that the recruitment EQ saw was from a long time ago. It's not a problem. This is fine, EQ answered. The lady stated that it was time to go, so she grabbed EQ. She was too excited because there are only 7 minutes left before Glory's 10th server is released. EQ asked why she wanted to go to the 10th server if her account on the 5th server is pretty good. Chen Guo did not give a true answer, but her real reason is to observe EQ's skills. There are several people who are excited to enter the new server. Hurry, hurry, it's almost time, Chen Guo excitedly stated while pulling EQ. She let EQ sit as she's interested to watch EQ's ability. It's already 10 server countdown. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and the new server has finally been released. Chen Guo spit when she noticed that EQ is still looking at the newbie guide despite that he has a first edition card. EQ answered that he hasn't looked at this newbie guide in years, so he can't remember what's on it. I don't believe you. You're saying you've never helped a new player level up. That's too inconsiderate, you're wasting your good skills, Chen Guo uttered. EQ told her that he has never done it before since he doesn't have time. Chen Guo asked about what he usually does and he proudly answered that he's busy with his job every day, which is to play games. Chen Guo asked if he was a professional and he nodded as his reply. Chen Guo's eyes sparkled upon hearing it. Already retired, huh? Chen Guo suddenly said, which made EQ wonder why Chen Guo knew that he had already retired. But then, the lady only predicted it because of his age. She even belittled EQ by calling him an amateur. She knows every famous professional player, but he never heard of a professional player named Izu. If you're not an amateur, then what are you? She asked, but EQ was speechless. Chen Guo told him that he doesn't have to lie. You're not actually retired. You got kicked out, right? What was the reason? Couldn't compete for the spot, the lady added. He then remembered what happened during the excellent era based of Operation. His manager replaced him with Sun Xiang as captain. One autumn leaf was also passed to Sun Xiang, and he was forced to retire. Chen Guo noticed that he suddenly feels down, so she apologized to EQ. Chen Guo advises him not to be discouraged by his age, and she also motivates EQ to practice well and go back. Yup, I think so, EQ answered. And if ever it will happen, Chen Guo said that she has a favor to ask, and that is to get an autograph from her idols, which are Suma Cheng and EQ. She even said that it's hard to get EQ's autograph since she knows EQ is a mysterious guy. According to her, everyone knows that EQ keeps a low profile and never shows his face. Let me tell you a secret, I'm actually EQ. EQ stated, but Chen Guo doesn't believe him, and she also tells a joke that she was Suma Cheng. EQ keeps telling her that he's really a professional player EQ until they both become awkward to each other. She then sits and wears her headset while letting EQ look at the beginner's guide. She wanted to look in the new server for a bit, so he told EQ to finish the mission that rewarded attribute and skill points. As for her, the other task only gives out experience and equipment. Running dungeons for those will be faster. She also informed EQ that at the end of the guide, the writers have already summed up which mission they need to finish. Upon checking, it turns out that EQ needs to follow the beginner's guide mission. He then clicks the start game button. His character is a muscled man with brown hair, wearing a black top and pants. When he finally entered, he was confused about why there were a lot of people. He's currently at the beginner's village, and everyone was rumbling behind him. They were leading to get the quest item since it's a first-come first-serve item. Chen Guo reminded him that newly opened servers are just like this. They wanted to leave the village as quickly as possible. There are a lot of players while there's only one NPC. Chen Guo stated that this game is worthy of being called glory since it's still popular despite the fact that it's already been 10 years since the game was launched. Players are lining up to receive a quest from a grandmother NPC. After the grandmother, there is also a lady NPC and a man on a farm. After completing some quests, he finally reached level 7. His current skill points are 340 over 500. He then goes to the basic skill Master Pierce, the right person to learn the basic skills. He learned the skill of Swift Run, which can increase movement speed. This skill is very powerful, however, it will consume energy. Once the player's energy is used up, they will return to their normal walking speed. Energy is rechargeable and requires walking or standing still. Walking slowly recharges slower than standing still. He also learned the skill Roll. It allows the character to roll. This skill has no cooldown. However, it will also consume energy. Forward roll, backward roll, right roll, left roll, diagonal roll, running roll, walking roll, and speed roll. With the help of Pierce, he learned both of the skills. He then activates both of the skills and goes to Kel, the Battle Mage skill master. This NPC will let him have a taste of the Battle Mage's fighting style. Kel showed him the Dragon's Tooth, which has an excellent stun ability. He then learned it. It's a Battle Mage skill that can direct attack and can stun an enemy in a short period of time. Aside from those skill, he also learned Sharpshooter skill Floating Bullet, Mechanic skill Mechanical Seeker, Spell Blade skill Earthquake Sword, Ninja skill Shuriken, Blade Master skill Guard, Elementalist skill Electric Ring, and Priest skill Heal. Chen Guo is observing him and she wonders why EQ is learning so many skills from different classes. She thinks that EQ will not pick a class, and she suddenly stood up when she realized that EQ wanted to play Unspecialized. EQ only nodded and didn't speak any words. Chen Guo belittled him since the specialized players can only learn level 20 and under basic skills. As for her, maybe when the max level used to be 50, it might have been possible, but right now, the max level is 70. Not to mention every class has already been awakened. Just switching between the different class weapons might slow down the player. EQ suddenly sold his starter weapon, a bronze sword, which made Chen Guo annoyed and called him stupid. EQ ignored him and he continued to go to the warehouse manager, Luo Zai. This is where the players can safely store their things. When he entered, there was a storage box made of wood. He was gloomy when he opened the box. Something is shining inside. He then slowly grabbed it. It was a weapon, a level 5 self-made myriad manifestations umbrella. It is a special silver weapon that can transform into many different forms. The player should use uncommon materials to upgrade. Chen Guo was calmed when she saw that EQ had a weapon stored in the warehouse. She was thinking that EQ's weapon is not the same as the other equipment grades. Silver equipment can't be dropped. The only way to get it is to spend a lot of materials on the equipment editor. Because of this, she started to be interested to know more about this guy in front of her. EQ remained silent and continued tapping his gaming mouse. At this moment, his character is holding the level 5 weapon. This is much more than enough for him since Myriad Manifestations Umbrella is only level 5 and more powerful than any level 10 orange weapon. But also, he is planning to upgrade this weapon as soon as possible. He is now all set and was ready to start the game. He goes to the Green Forest where players find a party of 5 to complete a quest. He exhales as he sees that there are also a lot of people in this area. When he checked the system, he discovered that the Myriad Manifestations Umbrella needs uncommon materials from here. But he has to enter a dungeon with a party to have a chance at encountering a hidden boss. He allowed party invites and many players instantly invited him to join the party. He then accepts a random party. Meanwhile, he was smoking while playing the game. The members of the party are too noisy playing while EQ only listens to them. He was typing into the gaming keyboard to ask his party about how they can split the drops from the hidden boss. The heaven boss is the Phantom Cat, and someone suggested that they will use dice rolls in splitting drops. EQ deals with it and they then enter the dungeon. They were teleported in the same area and there are 4 boys in their party while only 1 girl. The swordsman with the username Sleeping Moon is the one who leads them. The 3 of them are newbies named Sparrow Cards, a mage, Fallen Sun, a gunner, and number 1 Handsome, a nightwalker. They all laughed together aside from EQ. Right, Lord Grimm? I forgot to ask earlier, why bother typing? Just speak, Sleeping Moon stated. In the computer shop, EQ is still smoking. And the reason why he didn't use his voice to communicate with them is that Chen Guo is asleep beside him. Sleep Moon understands the situation and is ready to start. Moreover, with an old man like me, this will be a piece of cake. If you want to type, then type. Just don't drag us down. He added, but EQ remains silent. Someone is hooting, and all of them are waiting for the boss. The system suddenly alerts them, informing them that they are in danger. Midnight Phantom Cat is already ahead. The 3 newbies were all nervous and they trusted Sleeping Moon. Sleep Moon smiled and told them all that he will be the tank. His plan is to stabilize the boss Jigro before moving in. And since this monster is quick, he told them that it may take a while. Don't panic. We'll be fine as long as we don't ought, he stated, which made Sparrow Cards confused as she doesn't know any abbreviation in this game. Ought means off tank. There is also Mount, which means main tank. Mount is the tank that shoulders most of the damage since they tend to be the classes with higher defense and health. They can taunt and they can take hits. Tank attack first. Due to the amount of aggro pulled, the boss target will be locked onto the tank. As long as the aggro pulled by the rest does not exceed the aggro on the tank, they can go all out when dealing damage. Once it exceeds, that's ought. EQ focused while waiting for the Phantom Cat. He then saw the flashing at a fast speed into the dungeon, and he spoke, informing everyone that the one they waited for had already arrived. The Midnight Cat appeared at a fast speed, jumping behind Fallen Sun, which made his health deducted up to 75%. EQ cast his priest's kill to heal his companion. Fallen Sun was surprised that he was healed. What he expected was that he was going to die because of the Midnight Cat's damage. Sleeping Moon was annoyed that all of his companions only stood. He ordered them to retreat. Unfortunately, the Midnight Cat was furious and is already behind the newbies. His eyes flamed as he was rushing to the players. Fallen Sun and Sparrow Cards were frightened upon seeing their enemy. Good thing that Sleeping Moon blocked the attack using his long sword. Are you panicking? Don't worry, I am here today, he proudly said while trying to push the claw of the huge cat. He then slashed it, which took a lot of damage. Currently, he is in rank 1st in the aggro ranking, which means the monster will focus on attacking him. He enjoys the game and the 3 newbies are complacent that they will win because of Sleeping Moon. They then continued attacking the Midnight Cat while EQ healed those who needed it. By observing Sleeping Moon, his mechanic is indeed not bad as per EQ. Earlier, his positioning and timing were good and his defense was not sloppy either. He was healing Sleeping Moon as of the moment and Sleeping Moon acknowledged his timing. He concludes that EQ is not new in this game. Because of his skill, Sleeping Moon assigned him the position of a healer. EQ was a little bit annoyed that he has been designated to be a support by just a mere player. But then, he did not complain and remained silent. As of the moment, the Midnight Cat has only 10% of health left and is going to go berserk. Sleeping Moon reminds them all. When berserk, the speed and damage of the Midnight Phantom Cat will increase. However, this boost is limited as it is merely a hidden boss for beginners. At Sleeping Moon's skill level, as long as he continues controlling the field well, the difficulty should not be high. The 4 of them are attacking the Midnight Cat, but it keeps dodging. Sleeping Moon attacks it using his sword, but he noticed that the Midnight Cat is a lot faster now, so he was having a hard time hitting it. He was annoyed again. EQ is still observing them. He discerned that after the boss reached red blood, Sleeping Moon's mistakes increased significantly. EQ wondered if this man was panicking or just out of mana. It's almost as if he is a different person entirely. The Midnight Cat attacked him using its head, causing him to fall to the ground. Everyone was worried for him, and he reasoned that his hand slipped. That's why he couldn't steady the aggro. They all rattled on what they should do while EQ is just watching them all. He heard every word of his companions, but he didn't do anything yet. Fallen Sun keeps shooting the Midnight Phantom Cat, causing its aggro to transfer at him. The Midnight Phantom Cat jumped toward him and attacked him instantly. Because of the damage received, he was executed by the boss. The aggro transferred again to the other members. They asked for some help from Sleeping Moon, but in the end, all of the newbies died. Lord Grimm, bro, do you still have mana? With the 2 of us working together, taking it down won't be a problem. Hang in there, Sleeping Moon stated. He was shocked when he saw EQ only grinning. "Hang in there. Relax, I'm doing good. You should worry about yourself first," EQ casually answered. The Midnight Cat is attacking Sleeping Moon again. He was annoyed that EQ kept on laughing at him and did not do anything even though he was already bleeding. EQ continued laughing instead of healing Sleeping Moon. Sleeping Moon keeps blabbering at him, and he only yawns while waiting for Sleeping Moon to die. Sleeping Moon wanted to be healed, but EQ won't do it. "What does add life mean? I only see that you are bleeding," EQ answered because he saw that Sleeping Moon's life is still high. Sleeping Moon was annoyed at him once again. But then, EQ noticed that Sleeping Moon's movement has suddenly gotten better again. He asked Sleeping Moon if he can still play. He even typed more words, telling Sleeping Moon that it's a pity that he cannot handle the boss on his own at his level. Otherwise, as long as the drop system is changed to Captain's allocation, even if the team members are dissatisfied, the boss reward will be in Sleeping Moon's own pocket. According to EQ, since the team must help, the timing of the slippage is important. By controlling the hatred, and when the boss is red-blooded, Sleeping Moon starts pretending to make a combo mistake and create a knot. Clearing out the team members, and then dealing with the Midnight Cat is what Sleeping Moon's plan all along to keep all the rewards to himself. Sleeping Moon was annoyed once again that EQ knew about his plan. He deliberately let those 3 newbies die in order to decrease the number of people so he can get all the rewards. He was yelling on purpose to make the scene chaotic. His companions were completely in the dark and kept apologizing before they died. It's reasonable to assume that at this point, the healer would lose judgment in the heat of the moment and desperately use his recovery skills. The hatred value will also skyrocket with that. Then, he will become the boss' next target. But then, he made a miscalculation. He noticed that the hatred value of EQ is always far below others. He feels that it doesn't make sense and that EQ is just pretending to be a healer and not taking action all along. At this point, Sleeping Moon fell to the ground while the Midnight Phantom Cat rushed to him. He grits his teeth out of annoyance that he will be going to die without being healed. He tried to beg EQ by telling him that they should work together to take down the Midnight Phantom Cat. "There is a 50% chance of getting everything. Isn't that a good idea?" Sleeping Moon stated. 50%. I prefer 100%. EQ answered. Sleeping Moon gives him another option, which is EQ can pick first before him. But then, EQ doesn't want to believe him. "What's wrong with stealing? If I die, you won't survive, will you? No one will be getting anything then. Friend, there's no need to get into a life and death struggle. What do you want from me?" Sleeping Moon shouted angrily. "You don't need to worry about what I want. Just die in peace," EQ answered. The Midnight Phantom Cat is above Sleeping Moon, and Sleeping Moon was slashed into half, which deals a lot of damage. Before he was completely gone, he took a glance at EQ and uttered EQ's username. He vows that he will take revenge the next time they meet and that EQ will not going to make it to the 10th district. After his character died, the Midnight Phantom Cat kept growling while looking at EQ. EQ only smiled and pulled out his myriad manifestation umbrella. He waits for the Midnight Phantom Cat to go near him. He then attacked using a 1000 chance umbrella and lance form. He was too calm while fighting the boss. He also cast a dragon tooth several times. EQ was focusing on playing and Chen Guo woke up. She suddenly shouted as she was shocked when she realized that she fell asleep. She also noticed that there was a cloth covered at her back. She then discerns that it was EQ's cloth, and she concludes that EQ is so attentive. When she held the cloth, she smelled something bad and she wondered about how long this cloth has not been washed. Her attention then instantly shifts to EQ's hands. She was too focused on observing it while thinking that EQ's hands are pretty good. Very fine and long fingers. The fingers are very fine and the nails are clean, which does not match to his sloppy appearance. Chen Guo moved closer to EQ as she wondered if EQ hadn't been out of the beginner's village. When she glanced at the screen, EQ got his first kill by executing the Midnight Phantom Cat in the Green Forest. Chen Guo screamed so loud that even the people outside the shop heard her voice. She was amazed that EQ got a skill and even got the first kill of the hidden boss. She also noticed that EQ is alone in the Green Forest. EQ explained to her that his teammates died and the boss life was low, so it was an easy picking for him. Chen Guo congratulates him and everyone in her shop heard how excited she is knowing that the one who got the first kill from the boss is someone that is in her shop. Because of it, she treats free drinks to the people who sit in Area C, and she also handed a can of cola to EQ, and EQ really saw how happy she is. She was happy about the fact that the first execution record will stay on the list forever. Although the Midnight Phantom Cat is only a junior boss, it's a different story in the new server that everyone just started as per Chen Guo. Generally speaking, the first execution of the new server is also contracted by people from large guilds and even professional circles. For her, EQ is giving them internet cafes and ordinary players a long face. Even though she's proud, she still believes that EQ only got it by luck. She told EQ that the next boss, without tactics and cooperation, the first kill is impossible. According to her, those are all prepared for professional teams, and that ordinary people don't even have a chance to try their luck with this boss. You just got lucky this time, be happy, she said. EQ this time got a 5 cat nails garbage, cat skin breastplate which his character can wear, dark midnight phantom cat nails, dark midnight phantom cat claw, and dark midnight opal. These are all hidden boss materials and are valuables. The last one he got was made by Chen Guo surprised. It is a skill book. Good luck, EQ expressed. Chen Guo keeps yelling, which was overheard by the other areas inside the shop. The total number of skill points that a character in Glory can get until the full level is 4,000 points. After that they want to continue to improve. This thing is one of the ways. It's not tradable. They can only play by themselves even in the late game. Because of it, Chen Guo really believes that EQ has super luck. EQ drag and used it in one go, which made Chen Guo regrets for him since it is a rare drop. EQ received additional 5 skill points. It is bound and cannot be traded, he stated. But what Chen Guo wanted him to do is to generally think about it before using it. Suddenly, a message appeared that made them both dumbfounded. Sleeping Moon shouts at the area chat, which everyone can see. He plugged in EQ's username and called him a shameless person. He accused EQ intend to plunder the hidden boss by refusing to treat the whole team purposely. Chen Guo asked about what happened and EQ told her that it was a long story, but still, he explained it to the lady. Chen Guo was mad upon hearing the story of EQ. She was very angry, but she noticed that EQ is expressionless. Anger doesn't necessarily have to be on the face. EQ answered. Chen Guo takes a closer look at him. She saw that EQ still managed to laugh despite what happened. After the first assassination and exploding of rare items, there was no response from EQ. Even facing the full screen of slander, his face has also not changed. EQ's character walked to the beginner's village. Everyone gossips about him since they all saw what Sleeping Moon announced at the public chat. While Chen Guo is observing, she commented that Sleeping Moon's method is quite poisonous. EQ is the person who was just posted in the system announcement. Brushing his name at the entrance of the Green Forest is easy to notice. The result is that no one dares to team up with him. All the players are watching out for him, so Chen Guo wonders how EQ will respond to this. Sleeping Moon with other players was laughing at him, but still, EQ remained unbothered. Sleeping Moon is together with Mu Yunchen, a swordsman, Tian Kai, a fighter, and Shallow, a holy word. They have their own guild, which is the Full Moon Guild. Sleeping Moon is boasting to them about how he brushed EQ's username. EQ removed his cigarette from his mouth and greeted Sleeping Moon, which made Sleeping Moon shocked and annoyed. What a coincidence. Are you short of people? Add me, EQ asked. What's up? Are you here to beg for forgiveness? You're as trashy comes. Sleeping Moon answered. EQ requested to join their party. He cannot find a party anymore because of Sleeping Moon. That's why he invited these men to team up together. He knows that these men need one last person. Sleeping Moon grits his teeth as he thinks that EQ is making fun of him. While looking at him, EQ senses that Sleeping Moon wants to team up with him. At the party chat of these 4 men, Shallow ordered Sleeping Moon to let EQ join their party. He noticed that everyone saw EQ with them, and for them, Sleeping Moon may look bad if both he and EQ will argue. They are planning to accept EQ and bring him along to execute him once no one is watching. When they enter the dungeon, they can do whatever they want. Sleeping Moon smiled while thinking about their plan to avenge EQ. He then accepts EQ to their party, which made Chen Guo overreact. EQ told her that no one else wants to play with him, and that's why he joined the Full Moon Guild. Chen Guo said to him that he can go play solo since his weapon is decent that can possibly help him level up faster. For her, EQ doesn't need a party for a basic dungeon. She then saw something that made her eyes big. EQ has a custom silver weapon that's several times stronger than a normal weapon. It's more likely overkill for his current level. He doesn't need a party for his current level at all unless he's doing it solely for the hidden boss. Because of it, Chen Guo concludes that getting a skill book definitely wasn't luck. She started to think again about what kind of person EQ is. She bids goodbye to EQ as she is going to sleep. She also informed EQ that she will come tomorrow to check if EQ died. And if ever EQ got another first kill, she's willing to treat EQ out. Your dumb luck makes me feel very hopeful for some reason, she stated. EQ was thrilled upon hearing it from her. Alright, see you boss, he answered. At the entrance of the Green Forest, the Full Moon Guild together with EQ already entered. They started to fight the mobs right away, and the Full Moon Guild continued their evil plan. In a short span of time, they achieve it. EQ is now surrounded by the mobs as they wanted. They all keep apologizing to EQ, and even ask EQ if he needs some help, but deep inside, they don't want EQ to come out of this forest alive. Don't worry about it. This'll be a piece of cake, EQ answered while smiling. He attacked the mobs using his myriad manifestation umbrella, and all of these mobs can't even leave a scratch at him. His move was jaw-dropping to these men from the Full Moon Guild. They cannot believe what they witnessed. It's their first time seeing a player who is capable of fighting alone with several mobs. They even feel that EQ can clear the dungeon alone. At this point, they were all clueless about what they should do if they cannot execute EQ. Since Sleeping Moon only saw EQ played as a healer the time that they are fighting the boss, now, he's very sure that EQ is really able to solo the enraged Midnight Phantom Cat. It hurts for him to admit it, but because of what he observed, he admits to himself that EQ played much better than them. EQ executed all the mobs by himself, and after he was done, these men were speechless and only stared at him. "What are you all staring at?" EQ asked. Chan Kai reasoned that the game is too easy and boring. Since they are almost level 10, he suggested going to the Spider Cave. Sleeping Moon evilly smiled upon hearing it. This idea is a genius for him. Since EQ did not die here in the Green Forest, he believes it will be different in the Spider Cave. Every guide discourages players at this level from running that dungeon. Even teams that have higher level carries fail it sometimes. What they believe is that the skill doesn't matter here, so they are sure that EQ will die in this cave. Meanwhile, they arrived at the Spider Cave. This dungeon requires level 10 players and it needs a party size of 5 people. They entered the dungeon and EQ is the one leading the way. Upon entering the dungeon, they start to regret and feel like they are putting themselves at risk. Shallow was worried about how they could survive if they let EQ die. He believes that it won't be easy to make it through if they're one member short. It says that this place is for levels 10 to 15, but no one actually dared to come here at level 10. The server's only been up for a few hours. No one else would come here except for large guilds trying to snag the first kill. Since it's impossible for them to survive here, they come up with the idea to use EQ for a bit. They will focus on leveling up first and deal with EQ after they reach the boss. "Don't forget about this. We're risking our necks to help you vent your anger," Shallow uttered. EQ noticed that they were silent, but then they reasoned that they were busy typing. Chan Kai asked if he brought antidotes and EQ casually answered that he didn't need them. After how many steps, the spiders started to appear at a fast speed. When they saw above, they were all rattled except EQ. Even Sleeping Moon was frightened after he saw that it was a green spider with poisonous claws. Upon being injured by this ability, a player may become poisoned. The poison will continuously damage the player. He smirked while thinking that EQ will be poisoned to death. EQ started attacking the spider using a Sky Strike. It's a battle mage ability that knocks the target upwards, suspending it to midair. To their surprise, a spider is spinning from above. They rattled and became puzzled about what to do. Good thing that EQ jumped towards it and hit the spider with an airborne 4x combo, which made them all jaw-dropping. The spider that was attacked by EQ was on the corner. Mu Yunshin said that it needs 170 actions per minute to do an airborne 4x combo. But then, Tian Kai corrected him by saying that 170 would be with attack speed buffs active. He's an unspecialized character, remember. Equipment matters too. No equipment at our level has those buffs, Tian Kai said. He also added that the player should have to be super duper fast to do what EQ did. He concludes that EQ's actions per minute is at least 200, that even their team leader has no capability to do it. At the moment, EQ's combo is still ongoing and the spider doesn't have a chance to retaliate at all. Tian Kai, Shallow, and Mu Yunshin stared at Sleeping Moon with annoyance and confusion about who this guy was with them that was provoked by Sleeping Moon. From EQ's 17th hit, the green spider was completely executed. The 3 men were amazed by him and they acknowledged EQ's skills, while Sleeping Moon is just on the side and was annoyed that their plan did not go as they expected. After just a second, a lot of spiders are coming towards them. The worst thing is that these spiders are not just green spiders, but there are range enemies too. The Full Moon men panicked as they didn't know what to do. But then, EQ was just too calm and volunteered that he wanted to give it a go. He then rushed to the mobs and attacked it using his myriad manifestation umbrella. Using his fast speed, he keeps slashing them without any fear. Surprisingly, he caught 7 spiders in a row. Mu Yunshin was jaw-dropping upon witnessing EQ caught 4 in a sweep and dodged the web in midair, and got 2 more, rolled, and used Sky Strike. At this moment, all the mobs are aggroed on him, But most importantly, he isn't poisoned because nothing has managed to hit him. His fighting skills are intense and the men are focusing on observing him, witnessing how his jump, roll, and dodges are completely fluid. Watching him fight makes them all hyped. They uttered that this is what real glory is. They were influenced by EQ, so they also helped fight the mobs and shoulder some of the pressure for EQ since they did not come here to just spectate. Sleeping Moon was shocked when his guildmates suddenly helped EQ instead of continuing their plan. He was furious because EQ's getting the aggro of all the mobs is their best chance to let EQ die. But then, they did not successfully make it because his guildmate changed their mind. In a short span of time, they cleared the mobs and they were proud of their carry, which is EQ. They then decided to continue and push on the boss. When the boss is rushing towards them, it's like a giant walking and creates a loud noise. When it's completely visible, it's a dark-colored level 15 Spider King that has sharp fangs and it keeps drooling. There is also smoke coming out from it. They smell a miasma from the boss, so the full moon men immediately drink their antidotes as they thought that it can help them to counteract a form of poisoning. They remembered that EQ doesn't have any antidotes, so they offered their extras to him. But then, he told them that it wasn't necessary. What made them shocked is they were still in a poisoned state after drinking the antidotes. And according to EQ, the antidote level is not high enough. In the past, he would always level up a lot more before fighting this boss, and he never used low-level antidotes before. After hearing it, the men felt down as they were losing hope of winning against the Spider King. But then, EQ suddenly jumps and interrupts the miasma. He then assigned the 4 men to a designated area. Go to 4 o'clock Moony Moon, he said to Sleeping Moon, which made Sleeping Moon annoyed since it was disgusting for him to listen. He was hysterical while complaining that EQ is the one who demanded them instead of him. He told them that he won't listen to EQ, but then his body is heading to the area where EQ assigned him. His companion saw where he was going, so he reasoned that this area is a favorable position for him. He waited for another order from EQ. Be patient. Next, you should stand there and not move an inch. EQ answered. The spider jumped going towards the position of Sleeping Moon. He's annoyed while thinking that EQ is trying to get back at him. His sweat drops while staring at EQ. He believes that EQ only acted in Lang and he didn't know anything. He thought that EQ showed off some weird tricks to be worshipped by Sleeping Moon's guildmates and for him to be executed in front of everyone. He grits his teeth as he didn't expect that he would fall into EQ's trap and become a laughingstock. When the spider is already near him, EQ suddenly blocks it using his weapon. Sleeping Moon was puzzled as he did not expect that this would be going to happen. EQ jumps as he attacks the Spider King. He smiled while ordering everyone to get their abilities ready as they were going to start executing the boss. 1 o'clock, 7 fields, use a front kick, he added. Tian Kai immediately followed him and the aggro shifted to the left where Tian Q positioned. 9 o'clock used piercing thrust and 7 o'clock position used stagger to follow up. All their movement was demanded by EQ. The Spider King then shifts his aggro to the right side where Shallow is standing. It's now Sleeping Moon's turn. EQ called him Moony Moon once again. But then, he doesn't want to hear any orders from EQ, so he immediately attacks the Spider King using piercing thrusts. Sleeping Moon underestimates EQ's tricks. For him, it's like a pinball which they keep bouncing back and forth. They attacked the Spider King altogether and it couldn't resist and only roared loudly. And finally, the Spider King has been executed by them all. The system noticed that they got the first kill in the Spider Cave. The 3 men were thrilled since this was their first time. Meanwhile, in another instance of the Spider Cave dungeon, there are men also fighting with the Spider King and hoping that they will get the first kill. When they receive the notification, they cannot accept that they only need 10 seconds to end the Spider King, but someone took it to them. One name on the announcement that caught their attention is EQ's username. They never heard of EQ before, that's why they became interested. They then remembered that Lord Grimm is also the player who got the first execution at the Midnight Phantom Cat. Lord Grimm, contact everyone in the villages. Tell them to look into him. The man uttered. His username is Blue River, the guild leader from the Blue Brook Guild. Blue River with his guildmate goes to the tavern. A member of their guild can't accept that their guild did not get what they promised to get all the records on this new server, and in the end, they failed on the very first day. He kept mocking not until his guildmate told him to stop yammering and look to Blue River. Blue River was too silent while looking out the window. His guildmate was gossiping about him and that he was pissed off since they dreamed to be one of the top 5 guilds. They have the best track record when it comes to dungeons too. But someone took the first execution on the very first day. I can hear you. I'm not mad, I'm just confused. Blue River suddenly uttered. According to the reports he received, Sleeping Moon was the one who took it to the Green Forest. Sleeping Moon said that Lord Grimm tried to execute all his teammates to steal the hidden boss. But then, Sleeping Moon and Lord Grimm teamed up again and took the first assassination at the Spider Cave. It sounds incredibly messy for them, and it doesn't make sense. More importantly, the general consensus is that Lord Grimm is some pro player that a guild hired. But the people in this team who talk trash about him don't seem skilled at all. In other words, assuming that your reports are correct, Lord Grimm took 2 first executions with completely random teams. Blue River uttered. His guildmate was puzzled while listening to him. A system notification appeared once again. It's about the announcement of another first kill again at the Spider Cave. This time, it's not the Spider King but the Spider Emperor. What makes them shocked is that this first execution was achieved again by the same team, but the party leader now is Lord Grimm or EQ. A player in real life put down his gaming headset. He sighs out of disappointment after he receives the announcement. He's Zhu Boyuan. The owner of the account is Blue River. His main ID in Glory is Blue Bridge Spring Snow. He smiled while thinking about getting to know the player Lord Grimm. In the Spider Cave, EQ and his team just executed the level 15 Spider Emperor. The men with EQ cannot believe that they beat the hidden boss. At the time EQ fought with the Spider Emperor, he was the DPS, healer, crowd control, and tank all in one. He even directed the whole fight. While observing him, the Full Moon Guild is very sure that no pros can even play like him. The Spider Emperor dropped 4 pieces of the resilient silk that EQ wanted. There's some other stuff too, and Tian Kai let EQ pick first before them. EQ thanked him, but he only picked the resilient silk and gave them the rest. But then, the 3 men insisted that he should pick more, which made Sleeping Moon annoyed that they suddenly became generous. The Sleeping Emperor also dropped a purple weapon. It's a level 15 Sakura blade with the weight of 2.6 kilograms that deals 165 physical damage and 178 magic damage. As per Mu Yunshin, even if not a swordsman, once this sword is equipped, it will be worth it even if they plan on switching to a different class later on. They wanted to give it to EQ for his leadership, but EQ declined. If it weren't for our teamwork, well, it would have been a tad difficult for me to solo the boss, EQ answered. Upon hearing EQ said that it would be a tad difficult for him, the Full Moon Guild was a little irritated, as it seems like EQ is boasting. Sleeping Moon grits his teeth out of annoyance. He then called EQ and he admitted to everyone that EQ really got some serious skills. But then, he swore that he will catch up to EQ someday. EQ stared at him, and Sleeping Moon blew out loudly. Then, good luck, EQ answered, which made Sleeping Moon puzzled. His guildmates sarcastically supported him several times until he shouted as he felt that these men were making fun of him. After it, they came out from the Spider Cave and these 3 men wanted to add EQ to their friend list. The next day, Chen Guo woke up. She was talking to herself while looking at the photo beside her bed. It was her and her father in the photo. Her father passed away in the year that Chi Guo was about to go to college. She wondered if her father would be upset with her knowing that she did not go to college. But still, she doesn't regret it at all. After all, she helped her father make this place a big success, and it only took 9 years for her. When she went down, she found out that there were a lot of people playing in her shop. She's thankful to Glory because it happened because of the opening of the 10th server. When she roamed around, she found out EQ was still playing. She grabs EQ's headset, but EQ only greeted her a good morning. When she asked about EQ's level, she was shocked that EQ leveled up to level 17 in a single night, which is too fast for a normal player. She also asked about how many first assassinations EQ got, and EQ told her that he first killed the Spider King and Spider Emperor. Chi Guo was shocked and amazed after hearing it, knowing that EQ got 3 first assassinations in just one night. She concludes that EQ is playing with a godly party, but when she checked it, she screamed when she found out that EQ is still playing with Sleeping Moon. So you ended up working for them for the whole rest of the night. Do you not have any pride? Chi Guo stated angrily. But then, EQ doesn't see any wrong with playing with them, especially since they insisted on letting him go to the loot first. Chen Guo was surprised that EQ managed to turn an enemy into a subordinate. EQ feels tired, so she told Chen Guo that he will go get some sleep. While looking at him, Chen Guo feels lucky to have hired EQ. She invited EQ to eat first, but EQ declined as he wanted to sleep and will eat after he woke up. He then went to the room on the 2nd floor, which is the storage room and now his bedroom. He takes off his jacket and sits on the bed. But then, he noticed something. Chen Guo left some new stuff for him and even left a letter to inform him that these things are for him, since she saw that EQ came to her shop without preparing anything in advance. She is so kind that she will not take the cost out of it to EQ's salary. EQ was thankful for her and he then went to sleep. EQ woke up at 9 p.m. When he went down, it was too quiet, so he wondered if there's happening. He then turned upon hearing an announcement. It was about him stating that he already retired as a professional player of the excellent era. He goes near the huge screen and overheard people gossip about him. They cannot accept his sudden retirement. 3-time league champion, 3-time declared the league's most valuable player, 2-time rising star, and 1-time one-hit one-kill. As both a team member and an individual, EQ represented the pinnacle of Glory's professional league. He is the goal that professional Glory players strive to reach and surpass. The manager was also invited to the interview for EQ's retirement. EQ turned back to leave, but then he still heard his manager stating that EQ decided to voluntarily retire due to his poor recent performance. Before EQ comes out to the shop, he heard that QELI announced a new member, Sun Xiang, and his expectation that Sun Xiang will make the title Battle God resound through the professional league again. He will save Excellent Era from its current break situation. QELI stated. When EQ was already outside, he heard someone crying. It was Chen Guo. She refused to believe that EQ voluntarily retired. As for her, EQ's career is still far from over. EQ asked if she was fine, but then Chen Guo shouted and wondered why EQ doesn't feel any emotions. I definitely do. I came outside, didn't I? I couldn't take it anymore. EQ answered. Chen Guo asked if he had some paper that she could use to wipe her tears. And the only thing EQ has is the cigarette box. Chen Guo did not accept it and ran away while ordering EQ to man the front desk. When EQ went back inside the shop, he asked for Chen Guo's permission to play while he was manning the shop. Chen Guo allows him, and she also hands EQ an employee handbook which can help EQ to learn what he needs. She then left as she was going to bed, and EQ only nodded as his response. He then sits at the front desk and wears the headset. He inserted his account card and he's at the beginner's village at the moment. The 3 men from the Full Moon Guild greeted upon seeing him, and they waited for him to log into the game since they will team up again. According to Tian Kai, Sleeping Moon did not log in as he was so upset over the news that EQ's retiring. EQ was speechless upon hearing it, and since they were 1 person short, EQ concludes that they might have trouble executing the Spider Cave's hidden boss if they encounter it again. If he cannot obtain the silk that he needs to upgrade his 1000 chance umbrella, then there's no point for him to go to the Spider Cave again. He decided to go to the skeleton graveyard, and these 3 men agreed to him. Meanwhile, they arrived at the dungeon of the skeleton graveyard. EQ only wanted to get the skeleton warrior's saber. Tian Kai was thinking about what EQ will do with this item, but since it's Lord Grimm, he believes that there should be definitely a good reason. The 3 men suddenly clap and kneeled, asking the dungeon to give them a hidden boss. EQ then realized that they developed a liking for the dungeons. A skeleton started emerging. They came out from the grave and EQ immediately dashed to it. He then attacked the mobs, and the Full Moon men also helped him. These mobs were randomly spawned and there were many of them, which made EQ's subordinate struggle. But then, EQ didn't let them die and he always healed them as long as needed. As usual, EQ can multitask, crushing the mobs while healing his companions. After fighting with the skeletons, it drops several good items, but they have not encountered a hidden boss yet, so EQ suggested running this dungeon again. Meanwhile, they cleared this dungeon 3 times, so they believe that it will be much easier for them now in their 4th time. They continued walking, but EQ noticed something. He then ordered his companion to fall back. A big explosion happened in front of them. The system was notified. They already encountered a hidden boss, which is a level 20 skeleton warrior. The 3 men praised again, and they were glad that they faced a hidden boss as what they wanted. The system message informs them that they entered the resting grounds of the skeleton warrior. EQ is too focused now, but someone behind him at the front desk is checking on him. It was his boss Chen Guo. I don't think EQ should retire, she stated, which made EQ startled. EQ's companion also heard Chen Guo's voice. Boss, it's the middle of the night, and not only are you sleeping, but you're walking around with a face mask on, cosplaying as a ghost, EQ stated. The Full Moon men were intrigued by Chen Guo's voice, but EQ didn't give them any answer about her. Chen Guo was overthinking. She was thinking that EQ was sitting in such a high position, that's why when the Excellent Era started having problems, EQ was the first one who gets pushed off the edge. She always closely followed Excellent Era and their competitions, and she feels that EQ and the Battle God, One Autumn Leaf, aren't as strong as they used to be for a variety of reasons. The professional league is becoming more and more mature, and there are a lot of strong players now. She was talking about a lot of things, but then she suddenly shouted as she noticed that EQ was not listening to him. Help me look up a guide. he asked. Chen Guo was confused about what guide he needed, so he told the lady that he needed a guide for the skeleton warrior. You didn't read one beforehand, Chen Guo yelled. Chen Guo took off her mask and mocked why EQ only decided to check the strategy guide now. EQ mainly wants to find out how to 100% guarantee that the skeleton warrior will drop the saber. Upon hearing it, Chen Guo was clueless why EQ wanted an item that is nothing more than an ornament, and no one goes after it specifically. She doesn't have any idea that there's a guide on how to get this thing called saber. When she looked at the screen, she was surprised that there was really a guide for getting it. She smiled as she thought that the man beside her was really a big fan of EQ. EQ is busy studying the guide. He needs to hit the buckle of the saber belt 24 times as per Chen Guo. Chen Guo also pointed to a picture of the spot that EQ needs to hit. EQ only took a glance at it and gave thanks to Chen Guo, then went back to the game. Chen Guo was annoyed that she took so much effort to find it, but EQ only took a glance at it. She forces EQ to take a good look again, and EQ's character pauses while his companion rattles because the boss is going to them. They're already at their limits and they think that they cannot make it anymore. Their health was deducted, but EQ came back and was so attentive to heal them instantly. Sorry, I made you wait, EQ uttered. At this point, EQ's healing made him rank first to the skeleton warrior's aggro. But then, this is what he wanted, so he leads the way and continues going to the boss. As expected, he then assigned the 3 men to their designated area, and he fought at the front. As soon as he jumped, he instantly saw the saber belt of the skeleton warrior. He then attacks it multiple times until it reaches 11 hits. Shallow was confused that EQ took no damage carrying from the front, and he was dealing a minimal amount of damage. EQ is focusing on hitting the boss while Chen Guo is observing behind. As per Chen Guo, EQ needs to constantly dodge its attacks, and yet EQ didn't break his combo. She feels like EQ is totally capable of keeping this combo going until the very end of the world. So why did you need me to check a guide at all? She asked. Just in case, EQ answered. His hands are too fast clicking the keyboard. It's been too long since he has fought this skeleton warrior, so he completely forgot how big of a combo he needed. That's why he still wanted to double check. It'd be bad if he accidentally executed it before reaching 24 hits. And finally, the saber belt already broke upon reaching 24 combo hits from EQ, and the skeleton warrior has been killed. It stumbles in front of them, and EQ successfully got the skeleton warrior's saber. It's a level 20 weapon weighing 2.6 kilograms with no speed, no physical damage, and no magic damage. At this point, Shallow, Tian Kai, and Mu Yunshin don't know how to react after they won again without giving any effort. Chen Guo noticed the sound of EQ hitting the buckle. She felt like she only heard it 20 times. EQ explained that 4 of the hits were rapid strikes, so it's still 24 in total. He concludes that the strikes were probably too fast for Chen Guo to hear distinctly. Chen Guo decided to leave and reminded EQ not to focus solely on the game. EQ clicked his gaming mouse as he received a friend request. It's Blue River. EQ was puzzled upon seeing it. Seeing that Blue River sent him 18 times of friend requests makes him wonder. He feels like Blue River is very determined, so he clicks accept and they now become friends on the Glory 10th server. Blue River sent him a message introducing himself, his guild, and his main account, which is the Blue Bridge Spring Snow. The only person he knows from that guild is Huang Xiaoshan and his sword Saint Troubling Rain. EQ cannot say that he's very familiar with this Blue Bridge Spring Snow. From Blue River's point of view, he smiled while thinking that the player Lord Grimm will feel super honored after knowing that he is Blue Bridge Spring Snow. He informed EQ that they are looking to do Frost Forest Dungeon, and there's still one person short, so he invited EQ to join them. Why ask me specifically? EQ replied. Blue River crushed his cup after he received EQ's answer. He was mad that EQ together with his team took both of the first kills at the Spider Cave, which means their Blue Brook Guild managed to accomplish nothing at all in that dungeon, and he feels embarrassed because of it. Although EQ got an entire party executed so he could hog a hidden boss row himself, Blue River feels foolish not to admit that this Lord Grimm is an extremely talented player. As the saying goes, it's easier to find 1,000 soldiers than to find one good general. Blue River believes that if he will let EQ join them, it'll be a massive boon for their Blue Brook Guild. His main plan is to invite Lord Grimm to the dungeon and then build a camaraderie. He whispered to EQ again by explaining their deal, and that is to get ready to try and break the clear time record for the Frost Forests. If they can break the record, they are willing to give all the purple equipment that drops to EQ. He informed EQ that their only purpose is to get the record. EQ replied to him by declining to receive all the purple equipment. What he wanted was rare materials from that dungeon. Blue River smiled as he thinks that Lord Grimm is really a smart player, since the purple equipment would only be useful in the short term and it will be worthless after he will level up a bit. EQ told him that he wanted 72 pieces of the resilient spider silk, and Blue River accepted his condition without any hesitation. Although resilient silk does count as a rare material, it drops from the low-level dungeon. It can be grinded endlessly, and it's easily obtained and cheap, so Blue River is very sure that they can definitely get some for Lord Grimm. EQ also wanted the mithril pendants which were dropped by the White Witch, and Blue River agreed once again and was even willing to give one to EQ anytime. Mithril pendants don't have any attributes, so they're worthless ornaments. Certain female players like to wear them as jewelry, but that's about the only use they have. Blue River silently laughed while thinking that Lord Grimm wants mithril pendants to use to try and woo a girl. The small favors EQ asked from him can be fulfilled, as many as EQ wants. His eyes were rounded as he saw EQ's new message. He wanted 8 pieces of the White Wolf Fangs. He stood and shouted out of annoyance. White Wolf Fangs are dropped by the White Wolf, one of the Frost Forest's hidden bosses, and that players can only enter the Frost Forest 4 times a day. And not only is it completely random whether or not a hidden boss appears at all, but there's also a 2/3 chance that the hidden boss won't be the White Wolf. 8 White Wolf Fangs are too many for Blue River. He sat again while thinking how he should reply to EQ. He then typed at the keyboard by telling Lord Grimm that it was a bit too much since he also wants resilient silk and mithril pendant. It's too much? Then I'll pass on the mithril pendant, EQ answered, which made Blue River more annoyed since mithril pendant is not a problem for him. He calmed himself and continued chatting with EQ. He gives a choice to EQ to choose either silk or fang. But then, EQ had a hard time choosing between the two. In the end, he still chose the White Wolf Fangs. Blue River holds his head while accepting the fact that the player Lord Grimm is indeed smart. EQ knows that White Wolf Fangs are far more valuable than resilient silk. He was about to accept it, but then EQ messaged him asking to still throw in some resilient silk to spice up their deal. He was so annoyed thinking that Lord Grimm is a shameless person. EQ wanted the White Wolf Fangs and 40 of the resilient silk. Blue River cannot believe that the player Lord Grimm has the guts to ask like this much. He did not reply to EQ, so EQ kept sending him a message, lowering the amount of the resilient silk that he wanted. He makes it to 30, then 25, and the last option is 24 pieces of the resilient silk. Blue River feels that he was struck in the chest upon seeing EQ's message. He shouted out of annoyance, and he cannot bear seeing EQ reply. He knows that EQ is lowering the number 1 by 1 to feel him out. The dignified Blue Brook Guild shouldn't exactly haggle with someone over a single piece of silk since it's too embarrassing for Blue River, so he accepts what EQ wanted. He leaned on his chair and was irritated that EQ only replied okay to him. He thought that everyone was all set, but then he received another message again from EQ. EQ still wanted to get a few more mithril pendants too. He decided to accept it instantly for the deal to be close. He also wanted to get some extras of mithril pendants and give them as membership benefits to the girls in their guild. After they talk about the deal, EQ asks about how they can split the loot once the hidden boss appears. As per Blue River, he will let EQ choose first before them. He then reminded EQ to change his class, but EQ told him that there was no need for it. EQ then closed their chat as he will go head over to the dungeon. Blue River was left hanging and in pain. He slumped on his desk and suddenly shouted that his original plan was just to build rapport with Lord Grimm, but ended up haggling, asking for so many materials. Blue River feels that Lord Grimm is taking a contract job or something. He also believes that the player Lord Grimm will not put full effort to help them break the record. He suddenly becomes thrilled while thinking that Lord Grimm might be stronger than the elite members of their guild, and that maybe Lord Grimm can break the record by just casually swinging his weapon around. He slumped on his desk once again while shouting that it was impossible to happen since the player Lord Grimm is only a level 20 player. He was thinking that he will only waste material that his guildmate will work so hard to obtain. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Till next time.